Welcome to another Mixing with Mike tip brought to you by MPG Insider Music Production School at mpginsider.com. In this tip, we're going to talk about using a fast attack for compression on drums and what effect that actually has on the drum sound. So what I've done here is I've set up a whole series of compressors and just basic C1 compressors, and they're all linked together. So actually what happens if I bypass one, they will all bypass. Essentially what I've done is I've set up like a very basic thing, kind of a light ratio, but a very fast attack and a fast release. And the idea here and the way I'm setting this up is that what I want to do is I want to limit the transient peak, and the idea is that I can make the drum kit sound like it's more behind the speakers or behind the other bits of music. So if I allow the transient to pop through, then what will end up happening is the sound will kind of come out of the speaker a bit more. So if you want a more aggressive sound, generally that's the way you go with a slower attack. But with a faster attack, what happens is that the sound kind of gets, that transient peak gets pulled back in, and the sound of the drums will actually sound a little bit more distant and back on the speakers. So let's see if we can hear that with this basic setup. So this is dry without any compression. And here is with the fast attack. So now there is obviously some makeup loss here. So let me just, for the sake of, kind of making up some of that, let's just kind of add a little bit. Now this will add it to all of them. So if you see any other one here, the settings to makeup gain will be the same. So without. So you can hear how present and upfront it is. And now you can hear how it sounds more distant. Now the basic idea is actually very simple. When something is farther away from you, the transient peak from it actually loses its energy in the travel in its distance toward you. So the net effect is that the transient peak is not as sharp or as separated from the rest of the tone of the instrument the farther away it is from you. When something is very close, the transient is very sharp. And so being close to a snare drum when it's hit, it's not so much about the volume, but about the transient peak being exceptionally louder. When you're on the other side of the room, the drummer could hit the snare just as hard and it wouldn't be as hurtful. Because by the time that transient peak travels across the room, all of that transient energy gets dissipated much more quickly than the rest of the tone of the drum. Because of the dramatic change of all those air molecules hitting against each other, there will be more resistance. So by putting a fast attack and a very fast release on it, what we're doing is we're limiting that peak signal, and therefore would make the drums kind of recede back in the speakers. Now you notice it doesn't really affect so much the frequency response, just the attack. Right, and that's bypass. So you hear how that comes forward and away from you. And that's just a simple way of moving things around so that if you want, say, a vocal or another instrument to stand out in front of the drum kit, this is a very simple, quick, functional compression kind of way to make that happen. All right, so there you have it. There is a Mixing with Mike tip on using fast attack for compression on drums. And you can join the live Mixing with Mike classes every Wednesday at 7 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time. And go there to mpginsider.com, click on the Mixing with Mike link for information and details on how to attend. Thanks.